And what's fascinating about this particular century is that we have entered a world where ineptitude has become as big a problem as ignorance. That is, our ability to execute on the knowledge of discovery, on the knowledge of what has been accumulated in the course of this last century, and how to put the pieces together and make it go right, is as much or more likely to be a cause of avoidable death or avoidable harm or avoidable suffering as anything else that we have. So how do we overcome that? What we're discovering more and more is it's science too. And you are seeing the consequences come through your offices as you see studies and efforts to try to harness how we overcome not just ignorance, but overcome ineptitude. And it puts a fascinating change and stress on many of our concepts of what science really is and who scientists really are.
What is risk? Risk is the most misunderstood term in our entire field. Most IRBs, most researchers confuse risk and harm. Risk is not harm. Risk is the possibility of harm. Okay? And in order to evaluate risk, you have to look at both the magnitude of the possible harm and the probability that that harm will occur.
So a learning healthcare system is simultaneously committed to giving the care that patients need to them while constantly learning from that. It is a simultaneous commitment and value that we give care and we learn from that care. It's not we give care and some other people who are scientists come in and think about it, but there is a simultaneous professional commitment and value that we give the best care we can and we constantly learn from that. Similarly, as we learn from every single encounter, and of course this relies on a lot of sophisticated systems, that learning gets fed back. So there's both simultaneous learning and there are real feedback loops. And I would venture to imagine that at most of the institutions from which many of us come, this is certainly true at my institution. There's tons of research going on, but that doesn't mean that there's a feedback loop that the answers from all of those studies get fed back to change patient care in the next year.
It's pertinent to remind ourselves that in addition to the corruption and the challenges that she mentioned, many of the environments where research is now being conducted internationally are plagued by significant lack of resources in terms of infrastructure, in terms of expenditure on health, both public and private, and in terms of the facilities available for delivery of health care to the population upon which we are building research activity.
We have an evolving research environment. The sorts of research that were being conducted, as Tom illustrated the history of the policies, has changed enormously. There's lots of different things that are going on now, many core elements that are the same, but lots of different changes too. International cross-cultural research we're more sensitive to. Biobanks and large data sets did not exist in the past. Complex collaborations between multiple institutions. New research design like cluster randomized trials. These are the sorts of things that we have to try to shoehorn into the current regulations and might require us to think about whether regulatory change would better enable us to address these kinds of new ways of conducting this important work.